Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about something that people rarely see. Not the finished book, not the published article, not the YouTube video, not the Instagram post. I want to talk about something that everything happens before the work is visible. Well, we live in a world that celebrates outcomes. People congratulate the published author. They admire the successful entrepreneur. They applaud the artist after the exhibition opens. But very few people ask, what did your creative process look like? Well, as a writer, journalist, and author, I've realized that my creative identity isn't defined by what I publish, it's defined by how I think before I publish. Today, I want to take you behind the scenes of my mind, not to show you what I create, but to show you how I decide what deserves to exist. Creativity begins long before you write. So many people think creativity starts when you open your laptop. For me, it starts much earlier. Sometimes it begins during a train journey, sometimes while sitting in a quiet cafe, sometimes after reading one thoughtful sentence, and sometimes after visiting a museum, sometimes while traveling through a city I've never seen before. Because ideas don't usually arrive fully formed. They arrive as questions, as curiosity, as observations. So I don't immediately write everything down. Instead, I let ideas stay with me. Because if they disappear within a day, perhaps they weren't meant to become a project. But if they continue returning, I know they are asking for my attention. So what is really important in creative process is that you should have an idea. And then second is how I choose what not to create. So this may surprise people. One of the biggest parts of creativity is saying no. Every week I have dozens of ideas. Travel essays, flash fiction, book concepts, video topics, photography projects, fashion content. But I don't pursue all of them at once because every idea costs time. Every project asks for attention. Every commitment requires energy. So what I have learned that protecting my creativity sometimes means politely declining my own ideas. Not every interesting thought deserves to become a book. Not every trend deserves a response. Not every opportunity deserves a yes. So that is related to creative maturity. Creative maturity is knowing what to leave unfinished. And that can really help in understanding the process of silence. So people often assume that if I am quiet, I am not working. Actually, some of my most productive days are the quiet ones. Those are the days when nothing is published, nothing is posted, nothing is announced. Yet internally, a great deal is happening. I am thinking, connecting ideas, observing people, reading, reflecting. So silence isn't empty. It's where ideas organize themselves. So I've stopped feeling guilty about quiet seasons. Sometimes silence is the work. So creativity needs idea and silence and saying a power to say no to every creative idea. When I first became a writer, I wanted to publish every exciting idea immediately. Now I do the opposite. Sometimes I let an idea sit for weeks, sometimes for months, and occasionally even for years. Because time reveals something important. Some ideas lose their importance, others become stronger. So, if an idea still feels meaningful after several months, it usually has depth. Because those are the projects worth building. Because creativity isn't always about speed, sometimes it's about patience. So inspiration isn't my boss. So people ask often that where do you find your inspiration? The truth is, I don't wait for inspiration anymore, because inspiration is unpredictable, because discipline is dependable. There are days when I feel inspired, wonderful. There are also ordinary days when I still write, I still research, I still edit, because creativity work becomes sustainable when you stop depending entirely on motivation. So what is the difference between being busy and being creative is that there was a time when I confused productivity with creativity. If I worked 12 hours, I believed I had achieved something meaningful. But no, that was not the same case. Now I ask different questions. Did I think deeply today? Did I learn something? Did I improve my craft? Did I notice something worth remembering? Sometimes one thoughtful paragraph is more valuable than 10 rushed pages. So quantity isn't always progress. When is a draft actually finished is something that this is one of my favorite questions, because writers secretly know a draft is never perfect. There is always another sentence to improve, another paragraph to rewrite, another word to replace. So, how do I know it's finished? Well, when further editing stops improving the message, because perfection isn't my goal anymore, but clarity is, connection is, honesty is. So once the piece communicates exactly what I wanted to say, I let it go, because creative work teaches us something difficult. Eventually, you have to trust your work enough to release it. Now, what is consistency in creativity is something that is different from pressure. This lesson changed my life. For years, I believed consistency meant working constantly, posting constantly, producing constantly, always creating. Eventually, that became pressure. Now, my definition is different. Consistency means returning to the work again and again and again, even after breaks, even after holidays, even after difficult weeks. Consistency isn't about never stopping, it's about never abandoning your purpose. Comparison interrupts creativity. Okay, so one of the fastest ways to lose your creative voice is to constantly compare it with someone else's. Someone will always publish more, someone will always have more followers, someone will always receive more attention, and that's life. But none of those things improve my writing. Every time I compare, I lose time I could have spent creating. I have learned to admire other people's success without allowing it to interrupt my own journey. You know why? Because creativity needs rest. So if I have come on YouTube after like 5 years or 10 years, it means that I celebrated rest. Yet rest protected creativity. Because some of my best ideas arrive after taking a walk, after reading a fiction, visiting a new place, listening to music, or simply doing absolutely nothing. So, rest isn't laziness, rest prepares the mind for better work. So, my process is also my identity. People also know me as a journalist and an author, a storyteller, both, but those titles aren't my entire identity. Because the entire process shaped me: the research, the editing, the failures, the rewrites. Earlier, since I didn't have had a habit of watching shows in the quiet mornings, now I have a habit of watching shows. So those invisible moments matter just as much as the published ones, right? So creative confidence comes from repetition. So confidence didn't arrive after publishing one book or after watching one show. It arrived after showing up repeatedly, writing again, watching again, editing again, learning again. So what am I learning now is that how to watch a show. So every project teaches me something. Not because it's successful, but because I completed it honestly. I completed watching honestly. So confidence grows through practice, not applause. Years ago, success meant publishing more, watching more. Today, success feels different. Success is creating something I genuinely believe in, or success is something that I genuinely watched and learned something. Success is respecting my own space. Success is allowing ideas to mature. Success is protecting my curiosity. Success is continuing to learn, because creativity isn't a destination. It's a lifelong relationship with curiosity. So if I really want to give an advice to every creative person, I would like to say that if you're an artist, a writer, a designer, a filmmaker, a musician, or simply someone trying to create something meaningful, remember this. Don't measure your creativity only by what people can see. Measure it by your discipline, your honesty, your curiosity, your willingness to improve and going back to again. The masterpiece people admire is only one small part of your creative life. The real masterpiece is the person you are becoming while creating it. So on today's topic, my final thoughts are that today I don't chase output, I protect my process. Because when the process is healthy, the work eventually follows. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson creativity has taught me. People may remember the books I publish, the articles I write, the videos I create, but I will always remember the quiet mornings, the patient revisions, the difficult decisions, and the invisible work that made all of it possible. Thank you so much for spending these moments with me. If this conversation resonated with you, I would love to know, what does your creative process look like before anyone else sees your work? Share your thoughts in the comments. And until next time, keep creating with intention, protect your curiosity, and remember, your greatest work isn't only what you produce, it's the person you become through the process of creating. I'll see you in the next video.